I don't need to agree with it, or I don't even need to be comfortable in it. I think quite the contrary.
Some people go their entire lives without facing the kind of heartbreak that John Travolta has endured.
Who we will always remain hopelessly devoted to.
But for this Hollywood icon, tragedy hasn't just knocked once, it's returned again and again, each time wearing the same devastating mask: cancer. That word alone sends chills down anyone's spine, but for John Travolta, it's a nightmare that's played out not once, not twice, but 3 separate times. 3 women, 3 battles, 3 losses that would break most people. The man who made us fall in love with dancing in Saturday Night Fever and Grease.
Two, give me 2, let's go.
Has spent decades dancing with grief behind closed doors. Imagine you are 23 years old, on the verge of superstardom, and you watch the woman you love take her last breath in your arms.
It's been this way for about 6 years now, so it all seems part of it. I don't really mind it anymore.
Then, just as you're learning to breathe again, your own mother succumbs to the same disease. Fast forward decades later, you've rebuilt your life, found love again, started a family, only to have cancer return once more to steal your wife. And that's not even counting the sudden, shocking loss of your teenage son. It sounds like a tragedy written for the screen, but this is real life. This is John Travolta's story. Most of us know John as Danny Zuko, the leather jacket-wearing heartthrob, or Vincent Vega, the smooth-talking hitman. We see the charisma, the million-dollar smile, the dance moves that defined generations. But behind those iconic performances lies a man who's faced more pain than anyone should ever have to endure. The kind of pain that changes you, shapes you, forces you to choose between giving up or finding a way to keep going. What makes John's journey even more remarkable is how he's handled it all. No public meltdowns, no bitter interviews, just quiet dignity and an openness about grief that's helping others navigate their own losses. He's become an unexpected voice for anyone who's ever wondered how to survive when life keeps taking the people you love most. But here's the thing that'll surprise you. After all these years, after all this heartbreak, John Travolta is finally learning to live again. At 70 years old, he's rediscovering joy, making new memories with his children, and showing the world what resilience really looks like. But the question everyone's asking now is, after everything cancer has taken from him, after surviving loss that would destroy most people, what does the future actually hold for John Travolta? When he was just a kid from New Jersey making waves in Hollywood, he had landed a role in a TV movie called The Boy in the Plastic Bubble, playing a teenager with a compromised immune system. It was the kind of tearjerker that networks loved, and John was perfect for the part. But nobody expected what would happen behind the scenes.
I understand.
Enter Diana Hyland, an established actress cast to play his mother in the film. She was 41, he was 23, and despite the age gap, despite her playing his mom on screen, something sparked between them that neither could ignore. John was completely smitten from day one.
Gina, you move so fast. What does it feel like to move that fast?
Feels like flying.
Years later, he'd tell reporters that he'd thought he'd been in love before, but he hadn't, not really. From the moment he met Diana, he was attracted to her in a way he'd never experienced. They were like two maniacs, he said, talking constantly on set. Within a month, their friendship had blossomed into romance. It was intense, passionate, and for young John, it felt like destiny. He'd found someone who understood him, who matched his energy, who made him feel alive. Diana brought sophistication and wisdom to his youthful enthusiasm, and together they were planning a future. But there was something Diana hadn't told John at first, something that would change everything. She'd been diagnosed with breast cancer back in 1975 and had undergone a mastectomy. When they started dating, she believed the worst was behind her. She had every reason to hope that she'd beaten it, that they'd have time to build the life they were dreaming about. John was busy filming Saturday Night Fever, the movie that would make him a global superstar, and he and Diana were picking out houses, making plans to move in together. Marriage was on the table. Their future seemed bright. Then Diana's health started to decline, rapidly and terrifyingly. The cancer had spread, and the prognosis went from hopeful to devastating in what felt like moments. Diana didn't know she was dying for sure until about 2 weeks before the end. 2 weeks to process that everything you'd planned, everything you'd hoped for, was about to be ripped away. John flew back to Los Angeles to be with her, leaving behind the movie that would define his career. Nothing mattered except being by her side. On March 27, 1977, Diana Hyland died in John's arms. He was holding her, feeling her life slip away, and later he'd described feeling the breath go out of her. At 23 years old, John Travolta experienced a loss that most people don't face until much later in life. He'd found real, deep love, and cancer had stolen it from him. The next 10 weeks were the hardest of his life up to that point. He was grieving, processing, trying to understand how life could be so cruel. But what John didn't know, what he couldn't possibly have imagined, was that this was just the beginning of cancer's presence in his life. If losing Diana wasn't devastating enough, fate had another punch ready to throw. Just 18 months after Diana's passing, as John was still finding his footing in grief, cancer came back into his life through the one person who'd always been his foundation, his mother, Helen Travolta. Helen wasn't just any mom. She was the reason John had a career in entertainment at all. Born Helen Cecilia Burke, she'd been an actress and singer herself, performing with a radio vocal group called the Sunshine Sisters. She'd even appeared in small roles, including playing a lady in a paint store in Saturday Night Fever, her son's breakthrough film. Helen was the spark that ignited the fire in all 6 of her children. She'd instilled in them a love for theater, for performance, for the arts. The Travolta household was filled with music, drama, creativity. Helen later became a high school drama and English teacher, passing on that passion to countless students. But more than her professional influence, Helen was John's protector. He was the youngest of 6, sensitive and gentle, the kind of kid who needed extra care. Friends from his childhood remember that John had a vulnerability about him, something that made people want to take care of him, and Helen understood that better than anyone. When Helen was diagnosed with breast cancer, she made a deliberate choice that would break your heart. She didn't tell John right away. She knew what her son had been through with Diana just 18 months earlier. She'd watched him grieve, seen him struggle to put the pieces back together, and she couldn't bear to add to his pain any sooner than necessary. Helen wanted to protect him, even from her own illness. That's the kind of mother she was. But eventually, she had to tell him, and when she did, John's world shattered all over again. This time, John became a caregiver. He visited his mother almost every day, sitting by her bedside, trying to keep her spirits up in any way he could. And here's something beautiful and tragic at the same time: John would perform for his mother. He'd sing, do little musical numbers, anything to bring light to her darkest days. It's a testament to their relationship, to the bond they shared through performance and art. But all the songs in the world couldn't stop what was coming. Helen Travolta died on December 3, 1978, at the age of 66. Cancer had won again. For John, it left what he described as a huge void in his life. He'd now lost 2 of the most important women in his life to the exact same disease, breast cancer, in less than 2 years. And if that wasn't enough to deal with, his career was hitting turbulence too. The disco era that had made him a star was dying, his follow-up films were flopping, and critics were starting to question whether John Travolta was just a flash-in-the-pan, one-hit wonder. Personal tragedy and professional crisis collided, and John, still in his mid-20s, was drowning in loss and uncertainty. But somehow, he kept going. The 1980s weren't kind to John Travolta professionally, but personally, he was slowly healing. By 1988, he was ready to take another chance on love. While filming a movie called The Experts, he met an actress named Kelly Preston. Kelly was beautiful, talented, warm, everything John needed after years of heartache. They clicked immediately, and by 1991, they'd gotten married in a midnight ceremony in Paris. It was romantic, hopeful, a fresh start for a man who'd seen so much darkness. John and Kelly weren't just husband and wife. They were partners, best friends, a team ready to build a family together. In 1992, they welcomed their first child, a son they named Jet. 2 years later would bring daughter Ella Blue, and eventually, in 2010, another son named Benjamin. On the surface, John Travolta had everything: a loving wife, beautiful children, and a career that had rebounded spectacularly thanks to his critically acclaimed performance in Pulp Fiction. But life had more challenges in store, and they came in a form John never expected. Jet Travolta was born with autism and suffered from seizure disorders. The family kept this mostly private, dealing with Jet's special needs away from the spotlight. John and Kelly became devoted parents, especially to Jet, who needed extra care and supervision. John rarely went anywhere without his son, always bringing him along, always keeping him close. Friends and neighbors in the Bahamas, where the family often vacationed, remember seeing John and Jet together constantly, the love and affection between them obvious to everyone. John was the kind of father who'd do anything for his kids, and Jet was his world. On January 2, 2009, the Travolta family was on vacation in the Bahamas, celebrating the New Year at their home in the West End.